Hi, we're starting a mini series about motion graphics basics, where we'll teach essential motion graphics techniques that we think every motion graphics animators should know. So this is episode 1, and we'll start with line trail using trim paths. I believe this is an essential skill. You see it in UI animations, or if you just want to lead the viewer's eye to a specific area, this technique is perfect for that. So let's open up After Effects and let's create a new composition. And then let's first create our line. And to do that, let's click the pen tool. And we have two properties here. We have the fill and the stroke. You can choose whatever color that you want and set the stroke width. So 30 is good. And then let's draw our path. So once we draw a path, it will create a shape layer. So a shape layer has two properties right here, right? The stroke and the fill. So currently it has no fill. So if I could select this one and choose any color, for example blue, and we'll see that it would have a fill. And it's like this because this is an open shape, it's not a closed shape, which I will discuss later on. So to make the fill empty, so just click this fill word and select this icon. If you want it to have a fill and no stroke, so just choose a color for the fill and click the stroke and remove empty for the stroke, so it would remove the stroke. So for our purposes, let's leave the stroke with color and empty for our fill. So a shape can be an open shape or a closed shape. So this is an open shape, right? When we created the shape, we did not finish the loop. So this is an open shape. So if we want to create a closed shape, I'm just gonna hide this and let's create a different shape. So we could just click anywhere. And to close that, we need to end this to the point where we started, which is right here. And there would be a circle icon beside the pen tool to indicate that this will close the shape. So now this is a closed shape. Now, currently it has no stroke and only has a fill. We can select the stroke to have this, to have a stroke on it. So let's delete this and let's go back again to this shape. So in order to do a line trail, we need to add trim paths to this. So what trim path does is, from the word trim paths, it would trim the path and you can manipulate the way it is trimmed. You can animate the way it is trimmed. So in order to do that, let's expand this, click this one, and then we'll have this add right here. Click that, click this arrow here, and then select trim paths. So that will add a property trim paths to our shape. So let's expand this, and trim paths has three properties, or three main properties: the start, the end, and offset. Let's focus our attention first on the start and the end. So basically, these two properties, you can think of it like they're canceling each other out. So if the start and the end, they're both 100%, you will see nothing because they are canceling each other out. So you will only see the line if one of them is not the same with the other. So we could have the full path if the start is 0% and the end is 100%, or vice versa, where the start is 100% and the end is 0%. So let's go back again to these, make the end here to 100% and the start to 0%. So what this does is the start manipulates the start of the path, and the end manipulates the end of the path. And these are determined the way you make the path. So let me try this again, or let's just hide this. So this is my first point. I click it right here. So that would be the start of my path. and end it here, this would be the end of my path. So let's remove the fill, and let's add trim path to this. And you will see that if I manipulate the end, this one would be manipulated because this is the end and this one is the start. So let us delete this, and let's go back to our original shape layer here, and we can animate this. So there's a stopwatch, so we could keyframe this. So let's keyframe both of them. Let's start this with 100%, and let's zoom in the timeline. Now if we want to animate that line trail, so we start with the end to 0. So what we really want to do is this kind of animation, right? This flow. So it first would from 0 to 100, and then we need to cancel that out from the starting point to like this, right? So what we want to do is this animation first and then end it with this. So but we have keyframed both. Let's move forward and in time. Let's start first with the end at 0%. Okay, at 0%. So we start with nothing, and then we move forward in time and make this to 100%. Now we need to cancel out this path, right? So now for the start, we move this to 100%. So now there is no animation, right? Because both of them are synchronized. What we want to do is we want the end animation to start first before we cancel it out with the start animation. So what we want to do is we move this one forward so that it would start the end animation first and then cancel it out with the starting animation. And I'm not gonna anymore discuss easing in this video. It could be a different video. So for now, let's just F9 this, right? And then let's preview this. So now we have a simple line trail using trim paths. Now let's extend this a bit further. And now if we're gonna move this start animation right here, so that it's gonna play out differently, the way it's gonna be canceling out the path. See, it's gonna play differently. And if we're gonna make it closer together, see, it's gonna have this effect. So that is one way to animate a path. There is another way to animate a line path. And that is, let's just duplicate this. And I'm just gonna hide this is gonna be our original animation. I'm gonna hide this. And let's focus our attention to the duplicate. Now let's go to our trim paths. And let's remove the keyframes. I'm gonna delete this and have this at default. The default is the start is 0 and the end is 100%. Now the other way to animate this is to manipulate the offset. So right now, if I adjust the value of the offset, we see nothing because this is still a complete path. So we need to trim this so that this offset could be noticeable. So I'm gonna trim the end part to that. And now if I'm gonna manipulate the offset, it's gonna have like this. And if I continue, see, it's going to be a loop. So this is another way to animate a trim path, is having a set start and end, right? Trim this to whatever you want. So you can have this 60 and have this trim the start. So we're gonna trim the end and trim also the start. So that's why it's called trim paths, because you're trimming it. So either you trim it at the start or trim it at the end. Now let's keyframe the offset and then move forward in time and manipulate this. and it's going to have this effect. So it's too fast, so let's move this a bit forward to make the animation slower. So that's another way to animate a line trail. So this is perfect if there is this explainer video where there's like maybe one element here and another element here, and you want to show that there's a communication between both objects. This is a perfect technique to do that, right? It loops. And we could also, there's also a different technique that we could use. We could click this shape here and then go to stroke, and then we can manipulate this too. Currently it has the line cap is a butt cap. We can change this to round, so it's gonna have this effect. And we could also add dashes to this. So there's this dashes. Click this plus button, and then click another plus button to set the gap, increase the gap, and it's going to have that effect. So it's like we could have a cell phone right here and maybe a person right here, an icon of a person. So that could be used in an explainer video, and you could have this effect. You could also change the trim paths of this so that the line is a bit longer. And you've got an effect, something like that. I think it would be better if it's gonna be something like this. So now we're done with that. Let's go back again to our shape layer 1. So we have this. And if you have the latest version of After Effects, you can now taper the path, I mean the line. Go to shape and then expand the stroke, and then if you go down, there is this now taper option. So if you're using After Effects 2021, or I think even After Effects 2020, you will have this option. So currently we can't see anything, right? Because this is the start of our animation. So let's place this at the middle of our animation right here. And let's play around with the start length and the end length. So now this kind of animation is possible with After Effects. And we could also play around with the start width and the end width, and the start ease and the end ease. So that's the line trail using trim paths. And what's good with this, I'm gonna teach you a different trick, because this is a path, right? We can just duplicate this and change the path of the duplicate. We already have animation for both, right? These two have the same animation. But if we're going to change the path, so to do that, click G on your keyboard to show the paths of this, right? And click this. And just be careful that you're not adding more path, right? Just make sure that you're just clicking on that specific point. And now with this, you can manipulate the path. And then change the color of this to, let's say, blue. And it would have this effect. So now we could duplicate this again. And you can duplicate this as many times you want. And change the color of this to maybe green. And again, change the path. Because we already have the animation, so we don't have to worry about the animation. You can just change the path to how we want it. And then you can repeat that step multiple times to however you want. Now let's try the yellow color. And you can even like make this one thicker. So there's a variety in terms of the line weight of this. So it's gonna look something like that. So I think we could refine the yellow path a bit further. Something like that. I think this path has better curves. So you can also use trim paths for closed shapes. So this is an open shape, right? It's not a closed shape. You can also use the trim path effect for closed shapes. So for example, we're gonna use circle. Let's just hide all of this. And let's create a circle. So now we have a circle. And maybe let's change the stroke width to a bit something thicker. And then we could add trim paths to this. Click add. And then let's trim the paths. Right? So this one could be used for UI animations. So let's animate the start. Move forward in time. And complete the path, and then let's cancel it out with the start property. So from 0 to 100, and let's just F9 this, easy ease, and there you go. So this one is used frequently in UI animations, and you can modify also the overlap of this both properties, right? And move it right here, so it's gonna have this effect. And if you have the latest version of After Effects, you can click the ellipse, click stroke, and there's a taper right here, and we can taper this. You can have that effect. So it's like good for loading if you're animating a loading screen. So this one is good. And now I think this would be better if the end here is not a straight line but something rounded. So let's change the line cap to a round cap. So it's gonna be something like that. And we could also duplicate this. So I'm gonna press U so that I could see the animation, right? And I'm gonna duplicate this and change the color to something warmer, and then have this. So I'm gonna click U to reveal the keyframes and have this in a delay. So it's gonna have something like that. And you can experiment a lot with this technique. So I believe this trim paths technique is an essential tool for motion graphics artists. So I'm going to post the project file of this on Patreon in case you want to check it out. I will leave the link in the description below. But I hope that I made this tutorial easy enough to follow that you don't need the project file anymore. But just in case you just want to check it out, it is there in the description below. And for our Patreon page, if you support us on Patreon for $5 a month, not only you get access to this project file, but also to all of the other project files that we post on Patreon monthly. And I think that's it. If you like this video, if this video helped you, I would appreciate it if you give us a thumbs up. I believe that it would help with the algorithm to get this video to other people who might benefit from this. And if you wanna watch more videos like this in the future, please subscribe. And I hope to see you on the next video.